You already know the answer. You've known it for months, maybe years, but you keep asking the question. Not because you're confused, because the real answer would require you to change something. And change feels like admitting you were wrong all along. Why do intelligent people lie to themselves more than anyone else? Not small lies, strategic ones. The kind that sound like logic. The kind that feel like self-awareness. You convince yourself you're being rational, while quietly building a story that protects you from what you already see. Most people think self-deception is about denial. It's not. Denial is refusing to see. Self-deception is seeing clearly, and then explaining it away. You notice the pattern. You feel the discomfort. You even name it correctly. But then, you add one sentence, one small reframe, and suddenly the pattern isn't a problem anymore. It's a strategy. What if intelligence isn't protecting you from mistakes? What if it's just making you better at defending them? Think about the last time someone gave you feedback. Real feedback. The kind that stung a little. You probably nodded, said, "I hear you," maybe even thanked them. But inside, you were already building the case for why they didn't fully understand. Why your situation is different. Why what they saw wasn't the whole picture. You didn't reject the feedback. You just contextualized it. And context, when used carefully, is just a polite word for dismissal. Smart people are very good at this. They don't say you're wrong. They say yes, but, and everything after the but is the real answer. The part they actually believe. Why does your mind work so hard to protect conclusions you've already started to doubt? Because intelligence gives you tools, vocabulary, frameworks, the ability to make almost anything sound reasonable. And when you can make something sound reasonable, you don't have to feel it anymore. There are 3 reasons smart people deceive themselves. Not 1, 3. And all of them feel like thinking. First, you confuse explanation with understanding. You know why you do the thing. You can trace it back. Childhood, past relationships, fear of rejection, fear of failure. You've done the work. You've named the wound. And because you can explain it, you think you've solved it. But explanation isn't change. It's just narrative. You've turned your behavior into a story you can live with. And as long as the story makes sense, you don't actually have to do anything different. This is exactly what you do. Second, you treat self-awareness as an achievement, not a starting point. Remember the question from earlier? What if intelligence isn't protecting you? It's just making you better at defending mistakes. This is how. You notice the problem. You admit it exists. And then you stop, because noticing feels like progress. You've said it out loud. I know I do this. I'm aware of my patterns. I'm working on it. And because you said it, you feel like you've handled it. Like awareness itself is the cure. But awareness without action is just observation. And observation without discomfort is just performance. You've made self-awareness part of your identity, so you never have to let it actually change you. This is exactly what you do. Third, you use complexity as a shield. Why do smart people make simple problems sound complicated? Not to confuse others, to confuse themselves. Someone asks you a direct question. Why didn't you do it? Why do you keep choosing this? And instead of answering simply, you give context, nuance, layers. You explain all the variables, all the competing priorities, how it's not actually that simple. And it's not a lie. Everything you said is true, but it's also not the answer. Complexity is a place to hide. And the smarter you are, the better you are at building that hiding place. You've made the situation so layered, so full of variables, that no single action feels right anymore. And when nothing feels right, you're allowed to do nothing. This is exactly what you do. These 3 things work together. Explanation without change. Awareness without action. Complexity without decision. And together, they create something that looks like growth, but feels like standing still. You asked why your mind protects conclusions you've started to doubt. Because doubt is uncomfortable, and your intelligence gives you the tools to make discomfort go away. Not by changing, by reframing. This shows up everywhere. In relationships, you explain why you can't leave, why you can't speak up, why it's complicated. At work, you justify staying in the role that drains you because of timing, because of stability, because of what it might become. With family, you understand the dynamic, you see the pattern, but you tell yourself it's too late to shift it now. In your self-talk, you're aware you're hard on yourself, and that awareness becomes the reason you don't have to stop. In your decisions, you research endlessly, weighing every angle, because as long as you're thinking, you're not failing. In your habits, you know what you should do, you've read about it, you've planned it, and the plan feels like doing it. It's not that you're lying. You're not. You see the truth. You just see it through a lens that lets you live with it. This isn't about intelligence being bad. It's about intelligence being a tool. And like any tool, it does what you point it at. You can point it at growth, or you can point it at comfort. Most people do both, but they call the second one something else. Self-compassion, realism, maturity. The smarter you are, the better your excuses sound. Even to you, you already know this. You've felt felt it before. That moment when you catch yourself mid-explanation and you realize, I'm not explaining this to them, I'm explaining it to me. So why do smart people deceive themselves? Because they can. Because intelligence gives you the ability to make any choice sound justified, any delay sound strategic, any avoidance sound wise. And the better you are at justifying, the less you have to feel the cost of staying the same. You don't lie to yourself because you're confused. You lie to yourself because you're smart enough to make the lie sound true. And that's the part you don't say out loud, because saying it would mean you'd have to stop. But here's what's left. There's a moment between knowing and doing, a specific moment where you see the truth and you choose the story instead. That moment has a name, and once you see it, you can't explain it away anymore. What are you explaining right now that you should just be changing?